You. Beautiful. Welcome to your Health Council Talk. So happy to have you all with us today. We'll start with introductions. My name is Valeria Larcón, Executive Director at the New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils in support of all 33 counties and currently 10 tribal health councils. And I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Hill. Happy to be here with you today and welcome. We will go ahead and launch in with our land acknowledgement. The New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils gives sincere gratitude for the opportunity to live and work here on ancestral and unceded lands that have been cared for by our state's original peoples of the Apache Nations, Pueblos, and Navajo Nation. We honor and respect indigenous cultures, traditions, languages, and the rich contributions that continue to shape New Mexico. Together, we acknowledge the history and impact of genocide, dispossession, colonization, and ongoing systemic inequities in Indigenous communities. As a collective, we commit to working towards justice and reconciliation, dismantling inequitable systems, standing in solidarity with and respecting relationships with Indigenous peoples. The Alliance affirms Indigenous sovereignty, self-determination, and self-governance of New Mexico's tribes, pueblos, and nations. In offering this land acknowledgement, we encourage you all to reflect on your own relationship to the traditional lands and take concrete actions to dismantle systems of oppression where Indigenous people are empowered and celebrated.
Thank you, Joseph. And I see that we're 15 strong, and we've got a couple of messages that I think there's a couple of people in the waiting room, Geraldine. 17 strong. All right, my friends. So here's our overview for the next hour together. I'm going to kick us off with some timely Health Council's advocacy update, which includes the champions of the Health Council funding bill, and of course a advocacy call to action. And then we have Joseph, who's going to walk us through this upcoming legislative session that's going to be starting next Monday. Some updates as to what kind of priorities are being included in the budget, particularly from Governor Grisham, and provide you with lots of supports around how to navigate the legislation, how legislation comes to be, support you with your own advocacy efforts in relation to your own advocacy priorities as well. And we're so grateful that you're all here. So if we can move on to the next slide. All right, we're going to play our PSA video here in support of county and tribal health councils. And if we have audio, can people hear? Can you give me a thumb?
No, we cannot hear it.
Thank you for letting us know. Hey, Samantha, great to see you. Brenda, hi, good to see you. We see Sarah and Deborah, Diana, Liza, Shay. So great that you're all here with us today. And Tiffany's in the room too. Welcome, welcome. All right.
Could you all hear it when I just played it?
Yes.
Okay.
Tribal health councils have been in existence.
We're hearing it very faintly. I think it's picking up through your computer.
Tribal health councils are to do comprehensive community health assessments, community health planning. People come to me because they know that I can find for them resources, things like rapid COVID test kits, KN95 masks, During the pandemic, we were the frontline workers. Most of my team members are from the Pueblo of Santo Domingo, which makes a big difference. The Hopewell Health Council is a group of individuals from the community. Health councils have been severely underfunded since 2010. I think this is such a great opportunity for the state of New Mexico to invest in this vertical system to really improve quality of life and well-being of all New Mexicans now and for generations to come.
And a big thank you to Encorum Foundation for making this PSA video a possibility. We were able to, utilize this over the last couple of years as a very quick soundbite of, educating the public, elected officials as to who health councils are and why it's so critical to invest in this crucial function of public health, who works collaboratively, right, with so many partners. And we see the love. Thank you. The Alliance team is here in support of county and tribal health councils in service of all of our communities. So let's move on to the next slide. And just to very quickly, maybe a show of digital hands. Hey, Jonathan, how many of us here are health councils? I think we're 22 strong now here in our space. All right, we see some hands up. And then how many of us are community partners or public health providers? Just to kind of see where we know how to proceed with our presentation. Beautiful. So sort of half and half, right, of community partners and health councils. Thank you, team. Thank you. And just for those of you who may not know, the New Mexico Alliance was chartered in 2011 in support, as a 501c3, in support of county and tribal health councils, particularly with advocacy efforts and capacity building. And then, of course, a very long roster of core services that we provide. And during COVID, we worked, shoulder to shoulder with county and tribal health councils and NMDOH and many other partners to support communities across the state during this emergency effort time. And I think that's important to highlight because it was the first time the health councils were resourced, right? As noted in the PSA, health councils were defunded in 2010, and it's been this sort of uphill process of getting sustainable funding back in line. So if we can go to, and this is a picture from the statewide meeting in 2025, both are on-site participants, health council leadership, and you'll see online health council leadership there in the image as well. We can move on to the next one. And to highlight the history of health councils, they've been around for 3 decades, my friend, over 3 decades, originally under the Maternal and Child Care Act that was reaffirmed in 2019 as we know it now to be the New Mexico County and Tribal Health Councils Act, HB 137, right? And so, of course, that represents all 33 counties. And thanks to the leadership of the Alliance, and a big shout out to Gerald and Antonio, tribal liaison, and our partners too with DOH, we currently have 10 tribal health councils active in New Mexico, and that includes Pueblo of Acoma, Pueblo of Cochiti, Pueblo of Nambe, Pueblo of Picuris, Pueblo of San Ildefonso, Pueblo of Santa Ana, Pueblo of Santa Clara, Pueblo of Santo Domingo, Pueblo of Tesuque, and Cañoncito Band of Navajos in Tohajili, Navajo Nation. And we can move on to the next slide. And here's what I was referencing earlier, my friends. It's important to recognize all the work that's gone into enlisting, educating, and gaining the support of our legislative body to ensure that sustainability for health councils remains, particularly after CDC funding ended in May 2024, in partnership with NMDOH, maintaining that sustainability of $644,000 allocation for health councils in 2024 legislative session, thanks to Representative Allison Thompson, Lujan Armstrong, and many others came together to ensure a one-time allocation of $3 million from the state legislation for sustaining the work of health councils. And last year in 2025, thanks to members of House Appropriations, Senate Finance, the leadership of Representative Thompson, Representative Lujan, Senator Lopez, Representative Hernandez, and many others who come together to champion funding for health councils. $4 million one-time state allocation was included. And at an average, and we do need to update this slide, we just met with DOH. On an average, health councils are at 110,000 based on their scope of work for this state fiscal year. And so the Alliance together, if we can move on to the next slide, works closely with county and tribal health councils and advocacy partners year round, my friends, right? Advocacy happens every single day. And it is a testament to these statewide advocacy efforts that we have had thank goodness, the successes with the legislative session in 2024 and 2025. And of course, legislative champions are at the heart of it. But just emphasizing how critical it is for all of us to continue to work together, advocating, connecting with our elected officials, and reminding them why it's important to sustain this critical function of public health that we know as county and tribal health councils. And this year, Representative Lujan, Tara Lujan, who also sits in House Appropriations and Finance Committee, and Representative Thompson, Liz Thompson, who's the chair of House Health and Human Services, are both championing a funding bill for county and tribal health councils for this legislative session that we're about to step into next Tuesday, my friends, 30-day session. And so we're paying attention. As soon as this bill is filed, we will let you all know. And so just given everything that's transpired last year with federal funding being cut in many different ways in many different areas, the state, as you know, has held two special sessions, right? One in October 2025, one in November 2025 to bridge that gap. So this year, our understanding from the legislative body and executive branch is that this is a budget year, and making sure that we, when I say we, that the state of New Mexico is very focused on keeping things steady, right? So that the state can bridge the gap with other federal cuts that may be coming down the pike. We don't know, but as you know, they definitely bridged the gap this last year. So of course, the work of county and tribal health councils continues to be very meaningful and very impactful, and we have been educating legislators alongside with you all as to that meaningful impact. And so the goal here is to advocate for an incremental increase at $8 million that would also include funding for new tribal health councils, and with Geraldine's leadership in tribal outreach, consultation, engagement. We've got Zuni Pueblo, Zia Pueblo, Powaque Pueblo, and potentially a chapter house in Navajo Nation seeking to establish their tribal health council for next year. And so this level of funding would allow for that, right? To make sure that those new tribal health councils are, leveraged for success as they establish their health council. And so, when we think about the investment in health councils, we're talking about the staffing, the capacity, the operations, administration, coordination, collaboration, and all the programmatic services that health councils provide, obviously in concert with DOH and many, many other partners for improving population health and well-being, my friends. Now, best case scenario, this is the goal, incremental increase. Best case scenario, right? Just given everything that's going on that the legislative body is reconciling, best case scenario, we sustain the current $4 million, right? So seeing that half of our participants here are health council coordinators, leadership, health council members, health council partners, advocacy partners. This is an opportunity, if we can move to the next slide, Geraldine, for all of us to come together in a unified voice, united in advocacy, and reaching out to members of House Appropriations, members of Senate Finance. They're meeting right now too, and share with them why it's important to sustain this critical work, right, of county and tribal health councils. And one of the ways that we can do that right now, my friends, is by signing the advocacy letter of support the Alliance has on our website. And Geraldine will grab that link and put it in the chat. I want to share a success story that we experienced this last session, the power of unified voice, the power of unified advocacy efforts. So it was the middle of the session, and the Alliance team is out at the state capitol every single day, advocating and in support of and representing county and tribal health councils. And of course, you all participate, right? When you get our calls to action, please call members of Senate Finance, please call members of House Appropriation, please join us for public comment, which Joseph is going to walk us through some of these advocacy activities later on. These moments are so powerful because the more legislators get to hear from our collective voice, right, call to action, the more they pay attention and they're like, this is an important cause to our community members. And so it was towards the end of the legislative session, we were in one of our, heavyweight calls to action. And I had been meeting with chair and vice chair of Senate Finance and members of Senate Finance to enlist that they please contribute some state funding towards health councils. The House had put $3 million in HB2 in the state budget. And of course, we were seeking for Senate Finance to match that at the very minimum. And so I went around and asked, to the legislative aides, what kind of calls are you getting or emails from constituents about types of legislation? And on Senate Finance, I heard three. One was a bill on gun regulations, I believe. The second one, I can't remember. And the third one, my friends, was funding for health councils. So our call to action was on the top three most called upon from constituents that these are the to be investing in. Later that afternoon, so I was so elated. And later that afternoon, I get word from Senate Finance, we put some money in, please stop calling. And so when our elected officials hear from all of us in a collective manner, in a unified manner, they're getting the message. This is important for New Mexico. This is important for our constituents. So I want to applaud you all, county and tribal health councils, advocacy partners, health council members, community members who join in that wave of call to action, letting legislators know why it's important to invest in your health council, and your personal stories land so powerfully with them. So let me just open it up here for any reflections from the last advocacy session in 2025 and how that was for you. And obviously we render a successful session, right? But any reflections from health councils or advocacy partners here? If we're feeling inspired to share via the chat as well. Obviously, a huge outcome, right? We get to secure 103 health council coordinators to continue to lead the critical work across counties and 10 tribal health councils. And with the partnership with DOH, we have a robust scope of work, right? Focusing on behavioral health supports and many other priority areas. So we're so grateful for the unified advocacy effort, my friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But I will add something. This is Pam.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, hon. Don't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to say thank you so much because health councils would not still be here if it wasn't for all the efforts of the Alliance. So most appreciative. And I do follow up with my local legislators on a like monthly basis. Plus, they do support our health councils very well through here. And that's it.
And thank you, Pamela, for pointing that out. You being engaged with your district's legislators, inviting them into Valencia County Health Council meetings. They're seeking, obviously, to understand more intimately, right, about each of the health councils out there. So for health council leadership, feel free to talk with Pamela, with the Alliance team on how to engage with your district's representative and senator. The more that they know about the critical work that you lead, the meaningful impact that you are making in communities across the state, the better. The Alliance, in a short period of time of 2 years, we've gained about 51% enlistment rate. Now, when we talk with legislators, 5, 6 times out of 10, they know who you are because of the efforts collectively, all of us throughout the years, right? Educating our elected officials as to who you are and the great work that you lead. Any other questions or reflections, my friends? And there's so many ways that we can be involved with advocacy that works for you. If I could just say the soundbite for this year going into the legislative session is, dear so-and-so legislator, if we can please, we're advocating from Pueblo Santa Clara, from Valencia County constituents. We're asking that you please sustain the critical work of county and tribal health councils. And then share a personal story. And Joseph is going to walk us through the rest of more of that civic engagement, the legislative session that we're about to step into, 30 days. How does legislation come about? How you can engage with your legislator, and so on and so forth. And we also have advocacy training recordings on the Health Council Hub in your resource library. And we'll be happy to redistribute those resources in the upcoming Monday email that goes out to all health councils so that you have access to that, differences between advocacy versus lobbying, how to formulate your elevator speech. We're going to come together a week from Monday, my friends, for your statewide meeting. That's going to be a great, yes, Jonathan, that's going to be a great opportunity for waves of unified calls to action as we're together. She's going to walk us through some of that too as a co-facilitator. And then Public Health Day, my friends, right? So the week of January 26th, Monday 27th, being on site at the state capitol on the 28th, we get to link arms and go to our governor's office, lieutenant governor, House chamber, Senate chamber, and together advocate with and on behalf of county and tribal health councils and the communities, right? The community members that we get to serve together. And on that note, my friends, Geraldine and I are going to have to hop off because we do have a meeting with members of House Appropriations and Finance Committee here in a couple of minutes to continue that education and to continue that enlistment of support. So we thank you. Remember, we're stronger together, my friends, and know that from the Alliance, we are deeply honored to be of service and support of all 33 counties and tribal health councils. Thank you all around. And we see the love. We see you, Diana. And everybody, thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. So let's talk about the New Mexico legislative session. I've created a resource for you so you are able to follow through with all of the concepts that we go over today. So all of those high-level things are going to be in that document for you with clickable links. Wanted to make sure that was available for you. I'll try to every once in a while put those same links in the chat as we discuss them. But some of the things we're going to go through, we're actually going to go to the website so you can lay your eyes on it and see what it looks like. So you can go ahead and scan that QR code, or you can click the link that I just put into the chat. If you'd like to follow along with that, it's essentially going to be what I'm showing you on the screen as well. So just starting with the very basics, as far as the legislative session, what it is, and this year it's a 30-day session. Every other year it's a 60-day session. It's focused on the state budget, healthcare, education, public safety, infrastructure. The pre-filing starts in January 2nd, which I'll go through like some of the key dates soon. Bills must be introduced by February 4th, then the governor sets much of the agenda, including a proposed $11.3 billion budget with key topics including free childcare, AI protection, juvenile justice, and housing initiatives. We'll actually do a little deeper dive on some of the governor's initiatives. The process involves that pre-filing in introduction, committee reviews, floor votes in both the House and the Senate, and then action by the governor with potential for pocket vetoes if not signed by March 11th. And most laws will eventually take effect in May. So just so you can kind of see it as a list, January 2nd, that's when the legislation can be pre-filed. January 20th, the session opens at noon, which is in 4 days. Then February 4th, the deadline for the bill introduction. February 19th, the session will end at noon. March 11th, the governor has the ability to veto things. And then on the 20th, that's when everything gets started. So just to walk through some of the top initiatives from the governor so you can see, this came from a press release from the governor on the 22nd, so not that long ago. And so I'll read some of it I'll just kind of skim over so you can sit with it. Of course, if you Google this press release, you'll be able to find it fairly easily. But as I mentioned before, the budget is 11.3 billion. That's a 4.6% increase over a current year spending. And the reserves are strong at 30%, totaling 3.4 billion. So that's good. The governor said this budget reflects 7 years of disciplined investment that has transformed New Mexico. Even as we confront unprecedented federal funding challenges, we remain in the strongest financial position in state history. So that's good to hear. This budget puts the strength to work for families, students, and communities across New Mexico. Some things that that I'll highlight is universal childcare. That was a major development that happened. This recommends 606.4 million in total spending to ensure New Mexico's first in the nation plan to provide no-cost childcare for every family, regardless of income. Additional investments in early childhood education include 7.5 million to expand early pre-kindergarten by 500 children and 4 million for universal home visiting. We also see with K through 12 education, since taking office in 2019, the governor has increased reoccurring spending by 34.7%, raised teacher pay by 38%. This proposal builds on that foundation with 42.2 million in the continued betterment of schools, 38.5 million for career technical education, and 30 million for reading intervention, and 14 million for early literacy and reading support. So a shot in the arm for education. With higher education, the budget includes 168 million for the Opportunity Scholarship, which has reversed a decade-long decline in college enrollment and produced more than almost 21,000 graduates since spring of 2024. The budget proposal brings total higher education funding to 1.48 billion. So that's awesome to hear as well. Healthcare and funding response. This budget recommends 92.9 million to provide healthcare for the Medicaid enrollees who would otherwise have lost coverage under the current administration budget cuts, and also proposes 81.1 million to keep health insurance affordable for New Mexicans, purchasing coverage through B Wells Exchange, and 37 million to offset reduce federal SNAP benefits. In public safety, there's 13 million for pay raises for certified law enforcement and fire response. The budget recommends another 3 million for felony warrant officers and 2.5 million in maintaining the Organized Crime Commission operations. As far as infrastructure and water, there is 232 million for water security and implementation of a 50-year water action plan and 100 million for statewide road construction and maintenance. I'm hoping they come by my neighborhood. Proposed water appropriations, including 65 million for strategic water supply, 35 million for Indian water rights settlement, and 22 million for aquifer monitoring and mapping. And an proposed infusion for New Mexico to match a fund of 60 million will ensure communities continue to be competitive for federal grants. For housing, 65 million for statewide affordable housing initiatives and 45 for programs combating homelessness. A quote from the governor: "As I enter my final year as governor, I'm determined to continue improving the lives of all New Mexicans. I look forward to working with the legislature to pass a budget that reflects our shared values." So that's the governor's side of what's going on with the legislative session. Let's get into the legislative process. And so when we talk about that, I kind of mentioned some of these things by when they happen, but this is the process and how it linearly operates. So the first thing is the pre-file and introduction. So these bills are drafted and filed before the session and introduced by that deadline that we mentioned before. A bill may be introduced in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, and bills will be assigned a number. So a lot of times when you hear us talk about a number, we'll say SB or HB, that stands for Senate bill or House bill, and then whatever number that it is, and that's when that takes place. The committee review, the bills go through a relevant House or Senate committees for consideration. And then after that, the chamber debate and vote happens. So that's when a lot of the nitty gritty happens. So the bills are debated and voted on in the House and Senate. Bills may receive a do pass as amended, or a do not pass without recommendation, or with recommendation as amended, without recommendation as amended. A bill may also be tabled in a committee, so that can happen too sometimes. When you're watching bills closely, that part can be the most nerve-wracking part, because you just don't always know where it's going to go. Then the governor action that I mentioned before, they can veto the bill to become a law without signature, which is a pocket veto. Some bills carry an emergency clause and become effective as soon as the governor signs them. So some things can kind of be pushed into action instantly. And then, as I mentioned before, the effective date will generally take place in May. Where you're going to find all your information for everything, and we're actually going to take some time looking at this together, is this website here, www.nmlegis.gov. That's also in the resource that I provided. Also, when the bills have been signed, you can kind of see where they are in the New Mexico Secretary of State. And so those are also hyperlinked in the document as well. So you can kind of keep reference of those things. So this is where we're going to go through some how-tos. And in the document I provided, I've got all the active links to take you to many of the places we're going to visit. The key thing is to understand that this is where we get to participate. And you can participate at many levels. Maybe you aren't in a situation where you can go to the Roundhouse and spend an entire month up there, like many people do. But there are so many different ways that you can participate in this process. And not only that, understand what's happening and track what's going on in real time. And so we're going to go through all of those different ways The key thing is to understand how to track legislation and how to engage, educate, and enlist legislators around priorities that are important to you. And so obviously we're going to ask you to join along with us to advocate for health councils. But the good news is everything that we're going to go over today will work for any issue. So let's go through this. I'm going to actually share another situation here, and I'm going to go straight to the website nmlegis.gov, and we're going to go through a few things here. The main thing is understanding how to navigate this website, because everything you absolutely need will be here. So the main thing is around starting with this is understanding how bills work and how to even search for a bill. And one thing that I love is that they make it very easy. Oh, hold on. Let me switch browsers here. I put the wrong browser up. All right. So if you go to that link that I gave you, which is all you can play around with the subheadings at the top, and you'll be able to find everything fairly easily. There's the bill finder, and what I love about the bill finder is you can do it by so many different ways. You can find it by number, you can find it by sponsor. So if you know the legislator that sponsored the bill, you can type in their name and everything that they've sponsored will come up. You can find it by keyword. So let's say you have no clue what the number is or anything, but it has something to do with water. You just type in the keyword, and it'll bring up every bill that involves that particular thing. And then you can list all of the various bills by all of these various different ways. So I won't spend much time on that. Just know that there are so many different ways you can do it, and organize the information so it's easy for you to find. And then you might have to go back a step further, and you might wonder, well, who is my legislator? That's very easy to find as well. And we'll go to that. They actually have, if you go to the subheading here, they have a tutorial where there's a video that will kind of walk you through how it works. However, I'll take a little time and I'll just go directly to this part. And much like the last site that I showed you, this is fairly easy in that you can search by your address. You can search by the name of the district. There are all of these different ways that you can search by it. Also, the important information. So the seating chart, the leadership, where they place in that leadership, the office and phone list, which is huge. I provided a link that has all of those things for you. However, if you're just looking for a specific representative or a senator, you can go directly to this list as well. And then you can even look at former legislators. So that's an interesting feature that I think is very useful. All right, so once you know all of that, and let's say that you want to reach out to a particular legislator, it's also important to understand how to get a hold of them. And so, like I mentioned around the office or phone list, you're going to want to get in contact with their aide. Now, the easiest way, in my opinion, is just to go to that person's page. So I'm just going to click this, and I'm going to find a random legislator. Maybe this is your district. And what you'll see as soon as you click on their page is you can see their district. You can see things like how long they've been doing, their occupation. You have their direct email, but you also have their aide's email and their phone number. Now, it's good to reach out directly to that legislator. I've done it myself many times, and some of them, I've been able to reach out to them, and they'll give me their phone number, and I'll just text them, and they'll say, hey, when and where do you want to meet? Sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes they've got a lot of things going on. And so your next best option is to make sure that you reach out to their aide. It's going to be a lot easier to get in contact with their aide than it can be to get in contact with them. A lot of times it makes sense to just send out whatever you're sending to both of them, whether it's a request or not. And if you can't get to the actual legislator, don't let that discourage you, because their aide is, I mean, that's their eyes and ears. So you can't go wrong reaching out to their aide. Sometimes, maybe even if you feel intimidated by just reaching out directly to the legislator, it can be easier to reach out to the aide, because the aide's just a regular person just like you and I. So another thing that I like about the page that you can get to when you click on their name is you can also see the particular committees that they're involved with, or interim committees that they're involved with. And so that can be very helpful too, especially if you're tracking a particular issue. Another thing that we'll go through is how to search for a committee agenda. And so if you go to the link provided, and like I said, you can also just go up to the subheading and hit committees, and you're going to be able to get to this level right here. All of those committees that I mentioned before that legislators can be involved with, they're all here. And so if you want to follow along with whatever is going on during legislative session with one of these committees, you just click on it and you're going to see everything. So I clicked on House Agriculture, and there are no agendas right now because session hasn't started, but once it does, that's going to start populating with whatever's going on. It'll give you the room number, and on that agenda, which I'll get into deeper soon, you'll be able to see if it's available by online, which most of them will be. In general, they generally all are at this point, I believe. You're also going to be able to see those committee members, so that's very useful as well. On that topic of how to access these remotely, if you see up here, and I also provided the link, and you click webcast, that also is another wealth of information. So here you can see what's going on right now, which right now there's a House Appropriations and Finance meeting taking place that I actually caught a little of earlier today. And you can see here all of the new recordings, the things that have just recently taken place. A lot of these are test meetings, getting everything geared up for everything. But you can also see here's House Appropriations and Finance meeting. You can see when and where it happened, and things that happened this week. And you can go even further. If you look at just recordings, I mean, you can go as far back as it'll allow you to take. It's not infinite, but you can go back quite a ways. You can see this takes us in the last year for a couple of months. And so that's also good for reference too, especially if you missed a meeting, you're able to rewatch it. Another way of looking at it that can be useful to you is you can look at it through the calendar view, either through week or month. During legislative session, it's more useful for me to look at it through week because month can be overwhelming. But during the interim session and things of that nature, a lot of times it's easier to look at it in the month profile, but whatever works for you. And so you can kind of look at your calendar, look at their calendar, and understand how it all lines up. There's another aspect of it too, because those are just webcasts that I'm showing you, and it's not really easy to participate. So let's also look at, and I provided this link in the chat as well, but to get there, you just go to calendars and then what's happening. And so you'll see that up here too, what's happening, and you click that and you'll get here. And here you're going to see all of the meetings that are coming up. You're going to see the webcast that I showed you before, but you're also going to see the Zoom, right? So you see afternoon Zoom webinar, morning Zoom webinar. You can click on those various things. And this is also a good way to see how accessible things are. You can see some things, it might just say state capitol. Some things it's going to say webcast or Zoom, and you're going to have access to that information. And in the Zoom, you're able to use it just like you're able to use Zoom normally like we're using it right now. In some cases, they may mute you. I've found in some cases where they don't, and you just have to figure it out. So that's just something to pay attention to. So when you get that far, let's say the agenda came out and you read the agenda and it sets out time for public comment. Now it's important to know that sometimes things can happen with public comment. Maybe the meeting's running too far or they rush through it. Maybe they set aside a certain amount of time for it and that time gets cut in half. That does happen. However, it can be very beneficial to show up to these meetings and give public comment. And anybody can give public comment, which is awesome. I can just tell you personally, it's really gratifying to be able to give public comment in situations where people are with the power to do so are discussing the future of what's going on in our state. And so you're able to provide that influence, even if you live, I live in the metropolis of Lordsburg, as I call it. And hey, I want to make sure that they're hearing from Lordsburg about these particular issues. And I want to make sure that they can hear from wherever you are about these particular issues. And that's something that you're able to do because of that. So here are some guidelines. And this is in the document that I provided around that. And I think I'm going to switch back to the presentation real quick. Hold on. Okay. I think we're here right now. A key thing is to make sure you go to the legislature website, find the bill, look up the committee, check the agenda for, the time, place, and everything. The agendas are often posted 24 hours or less in advance. So sometimes you might get an email blast for us and say, hey, this particular thing is being heard. Please show up and make public comment. We don't always get the best notice. When you get an email blast from us around something like that, that's because we just got it in that moment. So just be aware of that. But after that, it's important to decide how you will comment. You have two options. You can either do it in person, where you just go to the committee room listed on the agenda. Usually when you get there, there will be a sign-in sheet that you'll need to sign. And then when they open up for public comment, you go ahead and make public comment. You go up to the podium in a lot of cases and just make that comment. There are going to be limits, generally between 1 and 3 minutes per speaker. Be flexible. Sometimes you might have 3 minutes worth of stuff to say, and then you have to figure out instantly how to say it in 1 minute. So it can be helpful to kind of prepare for both ways, especially if you're somebody that likes to write things down and have it organized before you say it. And just understand that the chair can cut off comment time if it runs long. Don't take it personal. It just happens sometimes. And then also, as I mentioned before, you can do it remotely, and everything that I said before is essentially the same. It's just you're online. Now, just another word of advice, when you go in to sit it, I know for some of us, especially if it's their first time making public comment in person, it might feel a bit intimidating. But one thing I recommend is to sit where you can be seen. That way it's easier to just kind of get up there for public comment. And, sometimes you just send the right vibes to the legislators just by physically being there. So let's talk about, if you are to go in person, what are some best practices around going to the state capitol? So a key thing to know, and any of you who have been up in Santa Fe during legislative session knows this, parking is horrendous. So don't think you're going to drive up there and then get to your room in 5 minutes. You might spend 20, 30 minutes just finding parking. And then depending on where you are in the session, when you find that parking, it might be 10, 15 minutes of a walk before you actually even get to the building. Then once you get in the building, then you have to figure out where you're going. Now, I don't say any of that to scare you, but that is the reality of it. there are a lot of tools to help you with that. I have zero sense of direction. So even if I can see the Capitol from wherever I park, I still will pull it up on my phone and follow Google Maps just to make sure I'm walking in the right direction, because Lord knows I can find myself in strange places sometimes. Um, there's ground level access to the House and Senate floors. There are elevators, but a lot of times the elevators move super slow. Um, oh, yeah, I see in the chat it says arrive early to get parking at Para. Yes, yes. A lot of times, so they have an actual parking garage right there across from the Capitol, and sometimes there's parking there during session. You'll see other places where you can park, either just at a regular street meter, and sometimes there are parking lots that you can park for a fee. Um, so do your best to research that before you go up there. But even if you don't, you'll be able to kind of visualize all the stuff that I mentioned to you. Um, oh yeah, I was saying elevators are very slow, so be prepared to take the steps if you need to. It's a multiple story building, so if that's rough on the knees, which I'm young at heart, but my knees are senior citizens. Be prepared to take those steps, or to wait a while for the elevator. Um, Access to chamber galleries on the first floor. The Senate gallery entrance is on the right, and the House gallery entrance is on the left. Now, a new addition that they put up last year is when you go in there, they have a digital display with all of the legislators' offices. I encourage you to pay attention to that. I've come across a few instances where what's said on the website doesn't always match up with what's on the digital display. So just double check it. Most of the time it does, but just double check it to be sure. The governor and lieutenant governor's offices are on the third floor. Generally, you won't have a reason to go up there. Generally, you're reaching out to your legislators. There's also a cafe available that actually has good, very overpriced food, but it is good at least. So if you want some tasty overpriced food, that is available and want to stay in line, there's great restaurants around the area within walking distance too. Recommend that. Um, and there's the customer service support window in the east entrance. Bring water. There are water fountains all over, but it's good to have water so you don't have to hunt for one, or you can fill up your bottles. And wear comfortable shoes. I mean, if you want to wear those heels, look, sometimes we need to sacrifice for fashion. I'm not mad at it. But just know that, those floors are hard. I think they're marble or something. So bring comfortable shoes. Nobody's going to judge you. Um, let's see. Make sure that you take the time to share your story with the representatives or your senators. If you aren't able to physically get there, send them an email, make a phone call. Any point of contact is better than no point of contact. And then they do get through. They do have their offices, and that takes place. So reach out to them. I provided a link in the document where you have access to not only your House appropriations, or excuse me, your House and your Senate. We on our website, you can see this list that Sam did a great job making, and same with the Senate. So be sure to reach out to both your senators. All of these things are in the document that I gave you. These are key links that you're going to want to look at. Just again, remember, legislative session begins on the 20th. Make sure, if you can, to attend the Health Council statewide meeting. We're filled up in person, of course, but if you want to watch it online, it's available for free 99. Just make sure you register. You do have to register to enter into that. And then Public Health Day following that. And here's a quick agenda of what's going on there. We're going to start at 9 at the Alliance table to visit with exhibitors. And then we're going to visit the governor's office and join health councils and advocacy after that. This is where you can take the opportunity to visit your legislators. And so if you've never had that experience before, this will be great because you aren't going in cold. you kind of have a little guidance with that, and that can be extremely useful, especially for that first time. And then we'll also have a beautiful expression of our culture in New Mexico. So excited for that. That's going to happen at noon. And then after that, I think it formally all ends at 3. After that, you'll find me at one of those local restaurants I was talking about. So if you want to hang out, I'll be happy to show you some of my favorite places to gain weight. And again, just remember the website, nmlegis.gov. Everything you need is going to be there around legislative session. Um, Here's a little format for public comment if you need some guidance with that. But honestly, you can just Google it. This is just some language that is useful if you need a place to start. And remember, there are many ways to advocate. There's that letter of support that we put the link in the chat a while back. If you haven't sent that or sent it to your friends and neighbors to send that, please do that. Call or email your district's legislators and share the impactful work of health councils. I mean, Valeria told you we're asking for 8, but where it sits right now, it's likely where it was last year. We want to make sure that stays in the budget, not just through the various committees, but also when it gets to the governor's desk. Join us at the Capitol if you can, and join us on social media and share things out as well, because we are stronger together. And I think somehow by a miracle, I got through all of it by 12:59. Look at that. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. I wasn't sure I could do that. So thank you all for spending time with us today. I always enjoy when we get to hang out together in virtual. I'm really looking forward to a matter of days at this point where we get to see each other in person. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You'll find in person that I'm even more handsome in person than I am online. It's great. It's amazing. So thank you all so much. Happy Friday. Have an amazing weekend. As always, if you need anything, please reach out to us, and we've got your back. And thank you for having ours. We're going to do this together, and I'm excited for another amazing year. So goodbye, everybody.